Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. Today's Thursday, so I want to do a little story day. I'm a big fan of Ramakrishna, a saint from the Bengal area in India in the late 1800s. And the thing about him that made him unique was he was able to go into the various samadhi states, the deep states of God contemplation, to the extent where his ego would be completely lost. And then he was able, without academic learning, to embody and therefore articulate the wisdom of the Indian tradition in a way that few people before him or few people after him could. And so it kind of proved that there's this bona fide tradition of people who get lit and then are speaking from a spiritually inspired place. And he would always say, like, in spiritual practices, you have to remember, you have to be like the turtle, that even though you're swimming in the lake, your mind is back on the bank where the eggs are. So there's a certain kind of beckoning from beyond, a beacon, you could say, a homing device that's trying to let us know that deep down we're cosmically homesick for returning to our source. And so his disciples often asked him, well, tell us what happens when you go into samadhi, the deep state of meditative absorption, and you enter into the different chakras, because according to the Indian system, the cerebrospinal centers from your tailbone, your genitals, your navel, your heart, your throat, your brow, and the electromagnetic aura surrounding you, each one has a Me Too voice. Each one is afforded a certain sound, a certain mantra, a certain animal, a certain element, a certain metal, and so forth. So everybody wanted to know what it's like when you get into that final state where you transcend your ego. So he would go into the first chakra and he would give a report there and say what was going on. And he would get to the second chakra. He would talk about that, the third and fourth. And then finally he would get to the last one, the brow, the inner guru, the third eye, where you see the unity of all existence, but you're still separate from it, seeing it, almost like a moth wanting to get to the light, but there's that pane of glass between the moth and the light, and that glass is your ego. And so then he would go into the seventh chakra and he would swoon away. Nobody home. And then when he would wake up, he would say, you see how silly it is trying to tell you what's going on when you transcend the ego? It's like the salt doll that wants to fathom the depth of the ocean. The only problem is every time it takes a dip, it loses its form. So who's there left to report on the depth of the ocean? We're talking this week about the Tao and Kuang Tzu's teachings. And you could see later on, we'll go into another week where we'll do some Zen stories, and you'll see the connection between how Buddhism moved from India to China to Japan. But right now, here we're talking about the sage mentality, almost like the guru, you could say, in the Indian tradition, or the tzaddik in the Jewish tradition, or the starets in the Russian tradition. And the whole idea is, first, learn to contain your peace. Any agitation you have robs your mind of reflection and clarity. So make yourself peaceful first. And how do you make yourself peaceful? Well, avoid extremes, avoid overindulging in stuff, avoid complacency, avoid thinking that you know, and persevere, which is an aspect of your will that you can develop. It says that the humans follow the way of the earth follows the way of heaven follows the way of the Tao, and the Tao follows what is natural. So once you understand that the way of heaven is to shine its light downward and create radiance, the wise person embraces this as an example and doesn't put a show on, and yet they shine. They want you to be focused in the present moment. As they say, don't think of what you wish you were doing, what you could be doing. Think of what you are doing and find peace in that. And so once you find some peace inside yourself, even if you're in the company of loud and aggressive and boorish people, you will be like the lotus, they say, flowering and growing up on the top of muddy water, seemingly touched by it but not soiled by it. So their basic statement is, it's as if we're living a dual existence, which of course we're not, but for language purposes, we perform our worldly duties conscientiously, but inwardly we're immersed in spiritual practices all the time. So do what needs to be done, speak the truth, create, but don't possess. Don't justify yourself and you'll be distinguished. Don't boast and you'll be acknowledged. Flow with the Tao, friends. Next Wednesday is the next good vibration class entitled The Possible Human. Go to GabrielHalpern.com and sign up for it, or contact me. Let me know how you like what we're doing here. I'd love to have a dialogue with you all. Have a great